I'll go directly to the point. We are here to talk about information security, and we are here to discuss some of the things that we see. I'm based in the region here, and my role is specifically around finding attacks, discovering attacks, and investigating attacks that we see happening in the region, specifically Middle East, Turkey, and Africa. So, what is information security? And I've been told that we have an audience of ICT people, so this should probably be an easy question to start with. Information security is the protection of data, and it is mostly defined with the confidentiality, integrity, and availability, right? Starting simple. Why do we need information security? Another simple question, mainly because we need to know why, so we know what to do with it, or what do we need to do with it. We need to protect our data, we need to protect our devices. Talking about us personally, we need to protect our families, our kids from, let's say, cyberbullying. Or on the organizational level, we have client lists, we have account lists, we have banking accounts, et cetera, right? So we proceed. What does a security researcher do? Now, there are different roles when we talk about cybersecurity or information security, and this could all be part of your specialization. When information security started, it was just information security. We do information security. Now, there are different specializations. There are penetration testing, vulnerability assessment, there are forensics, there are malware analysis, there are security operation analysts, there are network security analysts, there are all sorts of specializations now, and each one has a specific track. You can spend all your life in just a single specialization. And this move is what is pushing for information security right now. This is why we need more information security people all around the world, because we have all these specializations that are needed, but we don't have people that are specialized in these tracks. And that is part of the problem of, we were just discussing the shortage all around the world of information security people. The Global Research and Analysis Team. Now, we count around 3,000 employees inside Kaspersky Lab. 1/3 of them are R&D people, so we're talking around 1,000, 1,100 people. We're all R&D. And inside the R&D department, we have a specialized team called the Global Research and Analysis Team. We are a group of 40, around 45 people now. And our role is specifically to discover major attacks that are happening around the world. And we're talking about large-scale attacks, massive attacks that cause a lot of damage. And damage in information security could come in different ways. It could come in financial damage, which is very common, but it could also come in other phases, such as espionage or actual industrial physical damage. We were also just discussing physical damage that could be caused by a cyber attack. And this is all part of us. Like we've been moving for around 15 years now from the real world to the virtual world, right? We have a lot of technologies now that we use every day. And a lot of the cybersecurity problems have moved from the physical world to the cyber world. Criminals love doing electronic crime. Why? Because it's easy, because it's available, it's possible, you can buy the technology on the dark web or the black market, and you could be anywhere and do the attack, right? And we've seen that in the region. We've seen that everywhere, actually. And we see that all the day. At Kaspersky, so this is the map of the team. And we have 2 people in the Middle East. So to try to quantify the problem in numbers, the scale of the attacks that we see moved from 1 malware or virus in 1994, and nowadays we have, or we analyze at Kaspersky Lab, around 350,000 new files every single day. A lot of them gets automated, so goes through sandboxes and gets identified automatically, gets detected, and etc. But a small portion goes to analysts for manual verification. So there is still a need for human interaction. And these could be all sorts of attacks, all types of attacks that could do all sorts of damage on any type of organization or even on a user level, on a personal level. Malware in the old days used to look like this. You'll see screens, you'll see some graphics, you'll see... Now, in many cases, you probably won't see anything, mainly because it will just operate in the background and launch your camera or collect your files and upload them. Attackers used to do attacks for fun, but now they have much more interest in money, or even in threatening the user with his files or pictures or camera, so blackmailing. It's very common, and it's very common here in the region, especially because the culture in the region is more conservative and more protective against such types of attacks. So key cyber threats, we see cybercrime, which is just regular crime. Facebook accounts stolen, Twitter, Instagram, and you probably have seen a lot of these. Espionage, we spoke about espionage. It's a matter of spying, and we see that also in the region here, mainly because we are living in a region that is more or less hot geopolitically, and we have a lot of things that are ongoing at the moment, and therefore this brings a lot of attention for global powers that want to know what is happening and what needs to be done next. Sabotage, and we talk about sabotage specifically when we talk about industrial systems. Industrial systems, which means water systems, electricity systems, nuclear facilities, anything that could be running industrial equipment, SCADA systems, or similar. And these require specific security measures. They run on different protocols and require a different understanding of information security. You probably have studied Ethernet, for example. They run on different technologies. All right? They have different types of switches on the network and firewalls, etc. So this requires changes to how we deal with information security. Information security spreads over a wide range of solutions, and it all is enabled by the products depending on how they operate. And therefore, we need an understanding of each solution, of each product, to be able to secure it. That's why you see a lot of specializations in security. All right? Digital security specifically. I'm not talking about physical security. Main reasons for online crime. Why does it happen? We've spoken about that a little bit. I'll move quickly. It's profitable. It's easy to do. You can buy certain services online on the underground for $10, for $5. For $20, you can get a rat, a remote access Trojan that you can infect people with and monitor them. And that's a crime, but it's a difficult to track crime, type of crimes. And it's low-risk business mainly because you're everywhere. So there's a lot of calculations online about how you can actually benefit from crime, which is bad, of course, but it's very popular now. And criminals are moving from doing actual crime, going into the bank physically, to investing into cyber capabilities, right? It's easy, and it's efficient. And it happened a lot in the region here. I'm not sure if you've heard about the different types of attacks that are happening, the SWIFT transfer attacks that happened in the region here. And before that, there were multiple also incidents that went public also. We talk about banking Trojans, which could steal banking account information or credit card information, and this is more or less old now. It's efficient, it works, it still is widespread, so we see it all the time. Though it's more or less easy to mitigate. Point of sale malware, and this is something new, not very new, but more or less still into development phase. And we talk about attacks on POS systems and ATMs. Actual malware that is running on the POS system, on the credit card machine, all right? Inside of it, in the software. Or that runs on the ATM itself. And these are, in many cases, Windows devices. Windows devices that could be infected, or variations of Windows devices, or Windows software. This is how, we'll watch a few videos to just talk about how attacks moved on ATMs, or evolved on ATMs. Now this is just a small example of how maybe 10, 15 years ago you'd see ATM attacks happen. And this is more or less still happening. This could be possible, right? Any time. But banks and governments, police, have taken special measures to block such types of attacks, or try to, with cameras, etc. So it's more difficult on the attackers to do such types of attacks. And they're gone, right? Whatever security they had on the ATM itself, it didn't matter much because they took it all with them, right? So to take another example, and this is not popular in the region here, and I'm very happy because it's not popular in the region here, but it's very popular in Brazil. I'll let you watch. And this actually happens every day in Brazil. And if there's any money left after this, he'll collect it and go. All right? So let's move to another example. And then attackers become a bit more sophisticated. They try different techniques, and they learn certain technologies. They try to adapt to what is needed to collect money. And this is, for example, a case where a bit more intelligence was used in the attack. See, ATMs have special types of keys that could be acquired in certain methods or stolen. And this guy had the expertise to open the ATM machine, disarm the dispensers, and just retrieve the money. What is the knowledge he used? He used ATM knowledge, ATM utilization, ATM technical knowledge. He could be an ex-employee of the bank, for example, right? And you can see all the sums of money he has in with him. And he restarts the machine to reset a little bit of logs. And he's gone. Now let's take a better example, a newer, more complex example. And this is something that we investigated in 2016 and in 2017. It's called ATM itch. And it is specific for malware running on the ATM itself. So you can see the malware runs by itself, and this is being operated manually, but it would be done automatically and remotely by the attackers. Opening the dispenser, so unlock the dispenser of the machine. Then it will initialize rollers and suction cups. So these are the items or the machinery inside the ATM that is responsible for rolling out the money and sucking the money out of the machine. And then you can see a command to dispense money, which in this case was a white paper, mainly because this is in our lab. This is an ATM inside our lab that we were using to demonstrate the malware. Now, what is important here is that this malware was used in a huge number of banks, including ones in the region here. And attackers would be actually inside the bank controlling some devices, and then they would move into the ATM network and send commands or infect the ATM machine and remotely control the malware. They would dispense money, and someone in the middle of the night would be outside waiting for the money. You can imagine an ATM just spitting money out of it with no interaction from the person. He would just grab it all in a bag and flee. Which is quite interesting. And this is information security. This is a problem that was caused on the ATM. But where did it start? It actually started on the bank web servers, which had a weakness that enabled the attackers to come inside and then spread inside the network, and then move and spread inside the ATM network. And if you can imagine that this scenario was done in more than 30 banks, then we do have a problem that needs to be fixed. And in many cases, it's it's a problem of awareness, and it's a problem of skills inside the bank. It's a problem of proficiency of the employees inside the bank of information security issues. And you can imagine that such knowledge, such information security knowledge is needed immediately in every single bank in the region here. We move next to something that you probably have heard about already. It's called ransomware. Ransomware is more or less, do we all know what is ransomware? Hands? Hands? No? No? Not many? Ransomware is the type of malware or virus that infects your machine and encrypts your files and then asks you for money in bitcoins, right? You cannot track the attackers because Bitcoin is anonymous. And you either pay or you don't get your files. Mainly because they use military type of, military-grade encryption, RSA-based encryption on the devices. And only RSA, maybe you know about it, but RSA works with the public key and the private key, and you can encrypt with the public key, but you have to decrypt with the private key, and only the attackers in this case have the private key, which means that you either pay or you're not getting anything from your files. Now, there are different ways that you can block such types of attacks, but it's not easy. And these types of attacks are very popular. You should see them in a bank. And banks go into hysteria mode when data is lost, of course. Government entities have paid the ransom in the region and outside. Imagine a payment going to the finance department inside a senior government entity that says ransom for attackers. Because there are no choices. They either pay it or no data, especially if they are sensitive systems. And there are different tools and technologies and softwares that could be used to do a ransom. And this is Cashew. This is actually a bit old now. This is the one that uses the actual crypto-based encryption. And this one is more or less 6 years old, which is not popular now, but it was very efficient in the region here. Ransomware targeting healthcare industry. And this is news now because we've seen hospitals being attacked with ransomware, which means that all medical records inside the hospital were encrypted. And this is another information security issue that says we need information security in hospitals too. We need skilled information security people inside hospitals to protect the network and to protect the data of the citizens and the data of patients. You can imagine that a health record of people, if it gets lost or stolen, it could be used to do a lot of damage, right? And there was another example on hotels. It was also recently in the news where a hotel was taken ransom, software running encryption spread everywhere inside the hotel, including the software, it even encrypted the software that disarms hotel room doors, which means that everyone inside the hotel was stuck in their rooms until the hotel paid the ransom. They actually paid around $2,000 after negotiation with the attackers. It was weird. It was difficult, mainly because you don't expect hotels to actually need information security. They do very different things, right? But now that we're using technology inside everything that we do, we need to be careful about the other sides of technology. If you invent the plane, you invent the plane crash. And that's what we need to be careful about. There are different ways with how malware could be spread and how malware could operate. And we'll be giving examples of each of these. These were emails that were sent in the region here. And this is a research that we announced last year. It's called Operation Ghoul. And these were actually emails that were sent to many organizations in the region here. And it would look as if coming from a bank, a legitimate bank in the region here. And then people would just double click, right? Open up, show me what you have. And they get infected, data gets stolen, passwords get stolen, cameras get activated, and bank accounts get robbed. And we're talking in organizations, some of them have lost more than $600,000. And for a small industrial organization like doing food or furniture or something, this is devastating, and this destroys the business. Money gets transferred to what we call money mules in China, for example, and money mules would do the money laundry. They would, for example, take a share of 20% of the money and then give the rest to the attackers in clean money. And this is still happening. I'm not talking about things that are done and are okay, and attackers are on the loose because it was very difficult to track the attackers. And if they don't do mistakes, then researchers or police people only have one solution, is to wait until they do a mistake or until they leave a certain trace that is possible to track. Spear phishing. And spear phishing is how you receive, for example, fake emails or malicious emails. And we've just spoken about the geopolitical situation in the region, and it is being heavily used to infect users and steal their data. Especially when we talk about, and we haven't spoken about yet, government entities. And government entities need information security people more than anyone, especially now. And this is a simple example of emails. I'm not sure if it's clear on your end, but these are emails with files that have political description or political indicators, all right? And people would be interested, especially when we talk about government entities or political entities. They would be highly interested in such information, or maybe journalists and media. And they are also very interested in knowing, for example, something that no one knows about, right? And they would be the first to click, 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 click. Another example, these are just simple examples, and this is something that we investigated 2 years ago, which is called Desert Falcons. Research is public. You can Google Desert Falcons, and you'll find the research, etc., etc. And you can imagine that attackers are intelligent, more or less, and they can customize the attack based on the audience. So if they're targeting people in Bahrain, they know what are the topics that are hot in the news, and they can use them in their attacks. That's a simple example. In other cases, and this is absolutely popular, social networks. imitating a certain personnel on Facebook and then getting in touch with people. Let me show you my pictures. Let us get in touch. I love you, you love me. Check my pictures. Here's my picture. And it's done. Attackers were, this is also part of Desert Falcons. These people even had Android malware, which was able to track GPS location of the victims. Yeah, it was bad. And it will show you the pictures, so it's not like you will see something very weird. It will show you the picture also, but also run something in the background. We move forward. Malvertising and drive-by downloads. And here we talk about ads that are on popular websites, news websites. You see ads that look interesting, you click on it, and then you get redirected to a malicious website. And it happened multiple times. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happened multiple times where people just clicking on ads were redirected to malware. Viruses that infect their systems and control them remotely. And last, we talk about sabotage. And this is becoming now the newest or the most interesting when we talk about information security. It is a topic that is being developed right now. It is starting right now, the protection of industrial facilities. And it's not popular yet, but it will be in a matter of few years. So you just need to look it up, see what could be interesting for you. Maybe you'll work in a certain government industrial facility that is looking to secure its network. You can imagine if we turn off power on a city, what would happen? A lot would happen, right? And if we turn off water treatment facilities on a city, what would happen? If we manipulate the water treatment facilities, change the chemical properties in the water, what would happen for the millions of people who use the water? Now, I was asking the questions, but let me tell you that these scenarios actually happened already. We've seen power facilities being turned off in Ukraine and Turkey. We've seen water treatment facilities being manipulated in Switzerland. We've seen a dam being manipulated in the US, a water dam in New York. We'll talk about it maybe. The first known weapon that was used to manipulate industrial equipment was Stuxnet. And it's very popular. You can look it up online. It's very, very popular. And it was used to manipulate nuclear facilities in order to slow down certain processes in Iran. And this is also another example of attacks on a dam. And if you imagine a big dam with water inside, imagine what could happen if you manipulate the dam and then water spreads off. You probably have seen that in the movies. We don't see that in real life. It's not supposed to happen. But if someone could, with a few clicks online, do that, then we have a problem. And who's supposed to solve it? Information security people. Ukraine power cut, and that was quite in the news. That was quite popular in the news. And they actually turned off power on 3 cities for up to 7, or maybe, no, it was less. It was up to 5 hours, I think. Imagine 5 hours without electricity. Imagine people just stuck in the elevators. in their buildings. And many more examples everywhere on such types of attacks, which have currently very little protection measures or solutions to help. IoT is also something that is becoming increasingly interesting. I'm not sure if you're following the news. It's all over the news. IoT is everywhere in the news. The news is all about IoT only, in many cases. And have you seen this in the news? I'd love to have a smart car. It runs by itself. I'd love to have an autonomous car, which auto-drives everywhere. I'd be doing my work inside the car, and the car would go by itself, drive, and it's really beneficial and really interesting to see anything like that. But they could be remotely controlled, and this is an example. I'm not sure if you've seen the video, but it's definitely worth having a look at.
All right, something just turned on, all the fans and
so
PC and stuff.
You can see that manipulations have already started. This is a demo. Now they started the music. Yeah, someone is remotely controlling the car.
The music is blasting, and I can't see anything because of the windshield wiper fluid.
Hackers Charlie and Chris say they worked for the last year to develop the software to take over the digital systems in the vehicle.
So we're killing the engine right now.
It says park, it says...
I turned on my hazard lights.
They turned off
but
the
I was
engine.
still stuck in the right lane with no shoulder to escape onto.
Guys, I'm stuck on the highway.
What
I don't know, I think he's panicking.
They say this experiment was done to show how some late model Chrysler vehicles could be exposed to hacks through an internet connected computer in the dashboard.
So you get the idea. We won't spend a lot of time on videos because we have a little bit more. But you can see the problem, right? These cars, these smart cars, these connected cars, what do they need? Information security. They need better security for their software. So we're talking about development security, programming security. They need better security for their communication. We're talking about internet security, network security. And then we can talk about usable cars. We do have smart cars already in the streets now. But then, if they get attacked, who's responsible? Is it the user? Is it the manufacturer? Is it the government? No one knows. And now we talk about drones security. We've been hearing about drones. It's very important. It's very interesting. But then they are becoming increasingly used. I'm not sure if you've seen this video, but I'll show it anyway. It's also a new video. And this is a demo.
Pilots directed almost 3,000 precision strikes last year. We're super proud of it.
Of how drones
It allows you to separate the bad guys from the good. It's a big deal. But we have something much bigger. Your kids probably have one of these, right? Not quite. Hell of a pilot? No. That skill is all AI. It's flying itself. Its processor can react 100 times faster than a human. The stochastic motion is an anti-sniper feature. Just like any mobile device these days, it has cameras and sensors, and just like your phones and social media apps, it does facial recognition. Inside here is 3 grams of shaped explosive. This is how it works. Did you see that? That little bang is enough to penetrate the skull and destroy the contents. They used to say guns don't kill people. People do. Well, people don't. They get emotional, disobey orders, aim high. Let's watch the weapons make the decisions. Now, trust me, these were all bad guys. Now that is an airstrike of surgical precision. It's one of a range of products. Trained as a team, they can penetrate buildings, cars, trains, evade people, bullets, pretty much any countermeasure. They cannot be stopped. Now, I said this was big. Why? Because we are thinking big. Watch. A $25 million order now buys this. Enough to kill half a city. The bad half.
All right. So you can look up the video online. It's actually not a real video. It's part of a campaign that is trying to push for the protection against the development of military technology that uses drones, right? The technology is already here. We already have drones that can fly and be remotely controlled, right? Now we have them at home. We do have drones that do face recognition, like your iPhone, for example. It could identify specific people and look for them. Add that to a drone that is flying and has a certain type of weapon, and we're done. If we have this technology now, then this has been available for military purposes maybe for 10 years. So you can imagine what could go wrong. Now, which brings us, how is information security involved? Now that we talk about smart cities, and Manama is definitely working towards becoming one of the major smart cities around the world. They do have, what is it, the 2030 strategy, right? Smart cities are expected to be running drones everywhere, automated in missions to deliver pizzas and equipment, to monitor borders, and to help even in saving lives, delivering equipment, delivering medical equipment, or even blood to specific cases in specific places. This could all be done via what we call municipal drone programs. And imagine someone getting access to all of these devices and remotely controlling them. Imagine just one drone that is a bit large falling on the cars in the streets. One drone. And when we talk about municipal drone programs, we talk about tens of thousands of drones operating all over the place to do monitoring, to do security, physical security, to even monitor the speed of cars on the streets, and to do delivery, etc., etc. Therefore, you can see how is this becoming extremely important. Again, more news about Samsung smart TVs. Maybe you should close the cam on your TV, maybe. And then we talk about smart homes, where everything is connected, everything is being monitored, and all types of things are running digitally, right? It's nice, it's good, it's extremely beautiful and beneficial, and helps into better guaranteeing efficiency. We talk about efficiency, we talk about green, but if we don't take information security into consideration, then we have very big problems. This is another example. I'm not sure, maybe you've seen it, because it's maybe 2 years old, this picture, but I decided to put it here because it is a representation of what could happen at your home. And then we talk about blockchain and cryptocurrency, and let's move everything to the digital world. And what happens next? No one knows. To summarize, we do have a lot of things to worry about. You as ICT people have a big role in what is coming next. You have better chance than anyone else, actually, because you are on the hottest track right now. If you're doing ICT, then you can specialize in any of this, and you can guarantee yourself a very good living, at least to start with. We have not spoken about starting your own company, etc. There are a lot of issues that need to be dealt with. There are a lot of missing expertise, but there are also good news. Good people are also available. They are also there. They are also making money from business, and they are also searching to protect everyone. And we just need your help, and together we can better protect everyone, and Bahrain specifically. Thank you very much.